This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force podcast. My name is Rachel Paskvan, and I am your host. And today I am so excited to be joined by a dear new friend, Metta. So, Metta is a survivor of trauma and abuse who is now using her experiences to help others. And she works in public speaking, as a meditation coach and content creation on TikTok. And we're really going to listen today and, understand a lot about what she's been through. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rachel, for having me and giving me a chance to share my story with your viewers.
So, can you just tell everyone what inspired you to start sharing your story publicly?
Wow. We started with a profound question.
Yes.
So what encouraged me was to release all that pent up trauma and abuse that I had. And I had no way to release it. And people around me didn't want to listen because, people can only offer you support the depth they have emotionally. And sadly, I found out not many people around me have that depth. So for me, the best uh, alternative was let's do social media because everyone's a stranger and they don't know me and they're going to start knowing me with the story and we'll go from there. And that was the greatest encouragement, but it was also very scary because my ex who had abused me, he has a restraining order against himself, which he has kept violating this whole time, and
Oh.
he has still violated it, which is why again I had to kind of stop my social media for a bit and just be hermit. And so he overcoming that fear of being harmed again took 3-4 months for me. And then when I started sharing out in the world, all the women, even men,
Yeah.
they just resonated. They're like, this happened to me too. And it opened my eyes that I am not alone. And this has happened to many people in the past. And this is a pattern that happens in most abuse and victim dynamic. Like, wow. And that was the more encouragement, even more that, okay, I want to keep sharing because it's not just sharing about the abuse, but it's also sharing about how I recovered from it. So that's where I define my whole journey.
Yeah. And I mean, the journey that you've been to, which we're going to get into now, is just, it's inspiring that you got out. I mean, it's amazing that you're deciding to share that story. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it even had to happen and that you're meeting so many people that have also been through this. Because this shouldn't be normalized. It shouldn't be something that we should be like, oh, there's a group of us over here. And like it's really disappointing in where we are as humans and in the world. So tell the audience just how you got into this relationship, like the baseline of what was happening, and then kind of how, we're going to get into how you got out and what you've been doing with that.
Sure. I feel the first reason why I was susceptible to getting into this kind of relationship was because of how I was raised. And I was raised by very emotionally immature biological parents. And and I think that's the story of our generation, at least, I feel, where we are so self-aware since we have been kids or being born that we see things that normally other generations don't. They're just completely blind, which I cannot fathom. But I'm glad I'm not in that generation. And it was horrible the way I was treated being growing up. My biological mother had a huge problem. She could not self-regulate, and anytime she was overwhelmed, I being an older child, I was beaten. And for me, that was a normality.
Yeah.
and I was raised as a scapegoat for them to rely on once they get old and I grow up. So I will take care of them. So for me, it was like an obligation that, oh my God, no matter what happens to me, I have to take care of them. So this also stayed in my mind when I was recovering from abusive relationship. They're like, oh, we don't care about what you're going through. You just have to send us money, pay our bills, and that's what you we need you for. And I'm like, and I didn't know. I was like, you know what? Maybe I guess I have to do this because they're my parents after all. And when the abuse started, it was very insidious. So it's not very apparent, and you can't tell the difference because there's just so many gray areas.
Yeah.
And having coming from a background like that since childhood, there's just no way to know the difference because, hey, who knows healthy lifestyle? And so I'm okay with that. I'm going, and I think after 3, 4 years of marriage, he just loses his mind one day on something as trivial as why I didn't cook or something and starts beating me. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I don't get it. And it shouldn't be this bad. And so,
Not at all.
no. And so it takes me like 3 weeks to process all that. And by the time I'm processing it, it's already happened again. And so I'm processing a lot. And the controls increase like tenfold, where I can't make calls, I can talk to people, I can go out of the house. The only thing I can do is work the job and give him the money
Yeah.
that I'm making. And a couple of thoughts start coming to my mind, like, okay, if I get pregnant and I'm not working, I don't have money, how am I going to pay half of everything? What happens to me then? Do I have to move out with my child, or do I leave the child? And it was like my only existence was to pay half of his lifestyle. That
Yeah.
was the only purpose. And then other existence was paying for my abusive parents. And I asked my mother one time when the abuse got really bad, I had bruises on my body. I'm like, my biological mom, that, hey, I need $200 so that I can go and stay in a hotel for one night and make a plan. And that woman s said to me on the call, on my phone call, that leave our lives, leave us alone. We don't have money for you. Go figure it out. God bless you, but we have nothing for you. And hangs up on me.
That's horrible.
And that still hurts. Yeah. But then I realized, okay, there's no one gonna come. I gotta figure this shit out myself. And it took 6 more months, a lot of money, and losing a lot of money and getting beaten a lot more. But then I left him at 11:30 at night, left with five clothes, basically no money and nothing from the house. He kept all the jewelry, he kept the house as well. And that's when I realized I have to create something for myself, and also realized my parents are abusive. They are
Yeah.
completely useless. And it's a miracle I turned out the way I did because of myself.
Yeah. It's just, and I can relate to the parents portion of this so much, but it's so hard to, you're just trying to be a child, but then you end up being the parent and take on all these responsibilities. And especially as the oldest child, like you have this, necessary, like, well, I have to fix it. I've got to make sure because I've been playing catch up with myself, being like, well, if I fix it, if I'm better, if I do this, then like, then maybe I'll get their love. Then maybe they'll choose me. And it's a lot of therapy. We're all in a lot of therapy, but I mean, it's disappointing. But when you come to that realization, like and set the boundaries, like I feel like life is so much better. And people who don't have parents like this don't understand. They'll be like, you don't speak to your parents. I'm like, no, I can't. I can't. Like I
Peaceful without that.
literally, I'm like, I've given everything I can give. I have nothing left to give. Emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, all of it. So I
Yeah.
completely, like, I get that. And it's so sad that you have to go through this basically through different generations and kind of figure that out.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I think all this stemmed from the generation before our parents, which was even like sweep everything under the rug. And as a child, I remember when I was 9 or 10 years old, my grandma had said a couple of things, and I was like, when I think of it today, I realized my grandma was a toxic, abusive person. And I'm taking the brunt of it. Like I'm taking the brunt of, or I took the brunt of everything all the women in my entire generational family line had done. And it just culminated in me
Yeah.
with one person. It's horrifying. It's also liberating, but it's horrifying.
To figure it out. Yeah. And to have
Yeah.
that moment of clarity is just, it's hard, but it's also special because you're ready at that point. When you were in all of this, I mean, you said you had like worries of what am I going to do if I have a child? Where would I go? What are some of the fears or doubts that held you back? And like, how did you push through them? A lot of people would have been like, well, it'll get better. I'll stay in it. Like, I just can't.
That's also a really good question, actually, Rachel. Um, the greatest doubt that I had was, well, I did what everybody said, right? Like I went to college, I got myself a degree, got married, got a job, bought a house.
Check, check, check.
Why is it not working? Like, what is the problem? I did everything that was told that was right, you
Yep.
know? And I feel greatest fear I had was lack of safety or
Yeah.
not having a place or being homeless, which I was for the longest time. And I hope he listens to this because that way he understands while he was sleeping in the house on my name, on my credit, all those years. I was homeless on the street, and that was his fault. And the fear was, how am I going to find a house? How am I going to be able to buy a house by myself now? Or how am I going to be able to afford all of this? And that was horrifying. And I would think back on the abuse and everything that was going on simultaneously while I had all these boxes checked.
Yeah.
I've and that took me a lot of deep inner work that do what do I really want? Do I want the peace in my life or do I want these material achievements? And I chose, it's okay for me if I don't own a house ever again.
Yeah.
It's fine if I don't have big things in life because my peace is the most important and it took a lot of work for me to get here. And I am okay with that. And if people judge me because I don't have certain things, then it's mostly speaking about themselves
Yes.
than what it's speaking about me because they didn't have to overcome what I had to.
And that,
So those were the fears of safety and lack of safety, and just how I will be perceived. But then once I had overcome those, I'm like, you know what? I'll be okay. I'm fine.
but I mean, and just to have that reflection is phenomenal. Do you feel like, could you give advice to someone who they know they need to leave, but they feel like they can't?
Yes. Yeah. My advice would be don't be afraid to rely on your strength. You've been strong enough to endure all this abuse. You're way stronger when you are by yourself and you're figuring things out. Rely on that. And you're like, a lot of times family, social groups, religious groups, they will gaslight victims of abuse to keep the control because either they lack the depth to understand it or they themselves are abusers in a way.
Yeah.
Don't listen to people, listen to your intuition. That is going to be your greatest um, guide in coming out of it. And a couple of things that a lot of people say or advise women specifically is that, oh, it's not that bad, it'll get better, or
It's just
or
having
just go
you.
have a kid, it'll be okay. Don't. If you don't want to have a kid, do not have a kid, no matter who the man is.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, we have the power. And in my case, I feel very blessed and lucky for various reasons that I didn't get pregnant or have a kid,
Mm.
because that would have been disastrous. And given the level of abuse I was under, I might have had to leave the kid behind, because that would again have been used as a way of controlling me.
Yeah.
So, and I know from how he used to talk and how his family used to talk, that kid wouldn't have been mine. That would have been his kid. I would have just been a person to birth the kid,
Yeah.
nothing more than that. So, like, I would have no ownership or relatability for my own kid. And so I still think about it like, if I had had a kid, I probably wouldn't have had a kid, because that wouldn't be my kid. And it's hard as a woman for you to
Yeah.
relinquish child.
1,000%. You're the one that
So difficult.
do all the work. You grow it, you nurture it, you feed it, you keep it alive, you're doing all the stuff.
And then suddenly,
Yeah, not
boom,
yours. Like that's
it's hard. And so in my entire 2, 3 generations, I'm the first person who's not had a kid, which is big, because I come from a family where it's like having a kid was ingrained in my brain ever since I was 9 years old.
yeah. No, it's generational in that way, where they're like, this is just what you need to do.
Yeah.
Are there any like subtle warning signs that people sometimes overlook when it comes to abuse and being like, oh wait, like all of these things actually accumulated in this physical interaction?
Yes. Oh my God. Wow. So the first sign of subtle abuse is going to be um, extreme admiration and future faking or future planning right in the first week. And when I met my ex, in the first week itself, he started saying, "Oh, I want to marry you. And we are going to do this. We're going to live here. We're going to do that and all that." And for me, that was great because, I never had the stability. So somebody suggesting stability was amazing. And so that just felt great. And another thing these abusers do is they will constantly keep you in a survival mode. Like,
Yeah.
they will constantly keep putting problems in front of you to solve constantly. There's never a moment of peace, ever. And that is a big indicator, like there's something wrong. And especially for kids like me, who grew up in very abusive and unhealthy, anxious, constantly abusive and unstable environment. We don't know any difference. So how is peace and stability going to feel like? We don't know.
Yeah. So you even know what you're looking for.
It just doesn't exist. So the advice is to slow down and ask questions, question their behavior. Okay, if somebody says, "I want to marry you," ask them why. To give
Love bombing,
specific,
yeah.
yeah, specific reasons with facts. And if they can't do that, if they say like, "Oh, I just feel like it," no, it's never not feel like it. There's always a reason. I asked my boyfriend today, like, "Why do you feel emotional connection with me? Like, why do you choose me as your partner over everybody else, in the world? Why me?" And his first reason is, "You offer me emotional safety. You care about me."
That's beautiful.
And thank you. And that's how the relationship is defined. And abusers cannot tell you that.
No, it's about them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a very narcissistic attitude, for sure. I mean, you've had this experience. I mean, you've grown so much and are able to reflect on all this. What values changed for you most after this experience and breaking through all that, not just physical trauma, but generational and emotional trauma?
Wow. This was a very profound question. Many things. My whole life changed entirely. I am not the same person anymore. And people see me because I look the same, but there's nothing about me that's same anymore. In the way my values changed was peace. What is peace for me? I defined my peace and I realized the people I grew up with, they don't belong. There's no space
Yeah.
at all. And my values in relationship, those were, I had no values in relationship because all my relationships were kind of waving based on people's mood swings
Yeah.
who were mainly abusers. So I had to always cater and be cautious of what was good for them and not for me. So I started doing that. And what kind of people I wanted to allow in life, how I defined my spirituality, my meditation practice, and how much commitment I had. Because um, I found out that not many people who actually meditate or say that they meditate have the depth of that practice. And with how much the work I had done in my abusive recovery, I found out my depth is deep.
Yeah.
And it still shocks me because my doctors, they were worried about me and they put me on mental health medications and prescriptions. And I was like, I don't want to take these because this interferes with my meditation. And I would rather rely on meditation than
Yeah.
these. And they're like, it's going to be very painful for you if you don't take it because it's going to be raw and you're going to experience all of it. I'm like, that's fine. And that was true because it was all raw. And spending hours, like 4, 5, 6, 12 hours crying, just letting it out because it is held up in body.
Yeah.
And lastly, the partners that I wanted, that changed significantly. And I was raised in believing I think a lot of people from my culture are raised believing to stay in the culture, because to keep the honor of the families and have the same religion, language, caste, profession, qualification. And so same with me. I was ingrained with that. And being an older daughter, it was even more like, okay, I set the example. So I do that and I did it. I'm like, what happened? I almost got killed and no one was around for me. So just gonna do what works for me.
Awesome.
And and so I found out I don't get along well, or my ideologies of people in my community don't really align. And I mostly align well with other cultures. And so I started making more friends from other cultures.
You probably learned so much from that too.
Oh yeah.
You're really, really special. So you mentioned your meditation practice. So how did you get into meditating? Like, where did that come from?
I have always meditated ever since I was a child because that was the only one good thing my biological parents um, exposed me to. That was the practice of meditation. And I started slowly getting deeper into my practice when I was married or living with my ex-husband. And he didn't like it because with meditation, I was gaining insight about his actions.
Yeah.
So it was like he was coming into light and he didn't want it because he was losing control and I was questioning his actions and behavior. And so after I left him, my purpose was to heal, but my purpose was also to understand myself. And that is where this practice came in, that how much deep can I go? Because I'm tired of superficial living now.
Yeah. I mean, and it's phenomenal that you were able to even figure this out and do that.
Yeah, it is because I've spoken to many women who are recovering from abuse, and it is sad.
Yeah.
They're stuck in the cycle, and the brain fog, loss of concentration, and it's just so much. And
Yeah.
I was in the same boat, no lie. It was horrible. But this practice did save me a lot. And it did take discipline and commitment to keep meditating, despite how busy life got, how much stress I was under, and how whatever was going on in life.
That's amazing. And I mean, just from having this practice, how did it change your mindset after trauma?
Big time, big time. Um, you just start seeing through people completely. It's like there's nothing, there's no show. It's all real.
Yeah.
Or what's real and what's not. It's just one whole thing. And my perceptions changed in the way that I started seeing how fake people were or how afraid they were,
Yeah.
and their reflections off on me. And it just speaks volumes that not many people have the courage to really go deep inside
Yeah.
and witness everything that's happened. It may or may not be trauma, but in general, all their life, just sitting and witnessing quietly, not many people can do that. It takes work. And that is the actual identifier of the strength for any person, that can you sit for even 5 minutes and just witness in meditation? Can you?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's hard, 1,000%. And for someone like new to the practice, where's the best place to start?
Basic, just basic, couple of minutes every day, and basic. You could, there's like many meditations out in the world. It doesn't matter to getting started with. You can choose anything that works for you and go from there. I practice something that's a very specific traditional meditation practice. And so that's Vipassana. And for that, the baby step is like breath work. And then you go extensively higher in that breath work practice. And once you have become confident in that, then the deeper practice of Vipassana, you get the training of that. So, but if for some people they feel like they don't want to do Vipassana or the higher level meditation, they're just okay with breath work, that's fine too. There's limitations of every practice in some cases. So just knowing that as we are going deep helps, because then there's no expectation of expecting something unexpectable.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. But baby steps. No
Just like
one's
everything else. Yeah.
yeah, like you are not gonna be able to sit 5 hours the first time you sit and meditate. It's just not gonna happen.
No, I can barely do a minute because I'm like, this is going in my head. And I'm like, this is not the point of this. We need to rein it in. So, after all that you have been through and the trauma and the journey and just realizing all of these things and working through all of the different levels of trauma that you have been to, what has been the most rewarding part of putting your message out there?
People, the warmth, the love that I've received from my followers, and the trust that they put in me when they want to work with me. Maybe it's for hypnosis, maybe it's to do, meditation sessions, or to do astrology readings. It could be whatever. And now that I and my partner, so my partner's also, he's a great um, energy worker. And we started meditating after we met each other last year sometime. And he's grown so much. And so doing interviews together, sharing our stories out there, because he has also endured a lot of traumatic events. So both of us coming together and recognizing and sharing our story of recovering from that is phenomenal. And then sharing of the relationship too. So the trust, the love that we have received from followers is the greatest fulfillment.
I can literally only imagine. And I just, so much respect for how you're doing that and how you're reaching out. And I mean, if you can reach one person and make a difference, like I always say, like that's enough. Like that's the whole point of this podcast. If one of these episodes reach one person and helps them, that's really all that matters. 1,000%.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up, I have one final question I like to ask all of my guests, but if you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
Wow. My 16-year-old self.
Different people.
I would tell her she is strong. She is right to need and want what she is asking for, and the people around her are not capable. So study hard, run away, get out of where she is, and don't listen to all the conditioning your mother has put on you, because that is not who you are. That is who she is, because she's failure. You're not.
That's beautiful. And I mean, it's so poignant too. Like for you and for others who have gone through this, and like it can help.
Yes,
Different
yes.
people know, but they can help.
I keep on seeing those things, where write a letter to your
Yeah.
16-year-old, or like
Yeah. Take
a series of
yourself a
letters.
coffee. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
I'm like, I'm gonna need like thousands of these letters if I have to write myself a letter, because there have been so many things. The first 33 years of my life were full of action,
Yeah.
full. And only when I realized what peace is for me and then set boundaries and eliminate all the people, now is the calm. I feel like, okay, I can breathe, I can sleep without having to worry about that.
Yeah. And just take that step back and take that.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful to be able to do that and understand that, and really be able to give that to yourself is also just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Because we don't give ourselves anything. It's just like doing, doing, doing for others and for the world. But what is there for ourselves?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard. Like the self-care. Like I have a but it
That's
says
why it's
kind to
self-care.
yourself. And I'm like, it's very sad that I'm 38 and I have to write a post-it next to my computer that says, be kind to yourself. It's really like, I'm like, but whatever helps, little by little,
Yes. Yes.
doing all we can. Well,
Thank you so much, Rachel.
I want to thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your story, and for being so open and so vulnerable, and just, we're spreading this kind of message to, help other women or men out there that are going through this also.
Thank you for
So
having me.
pimp yourself out. Where can people find you on TikTok and all the things?
So I'm on TikTok currently. My handle is Metta_twin. I'm not on other social media, sadly, because my abusive ex is still trying to hurt me. And so I had to deactivate other things.
Yeah.
And my TikTok is where I do my content, and you can reach out to me for any service or counseling if you need for abusive recovery. And on top of that, I do a lot of public speaking events. So I'm speaking this year at a conference in Vegas on healing trauma through meditation and psilocybin therapy, which is something I'm very excited to share about.
That's going to be awesome. So if anybody's in Vegas, you can check her out. She'll be talking about it on TikTok. And I think for anybody going through this, that could be a really, really memorable moment for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything you're at. And it was so wonderful to talk to you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.